Hello, Namaskaram, Vanakkam. This is Sreekumar from IIT Madras. Let me thank Professor L.S. Ganesh, my senior colleague, for giving me this opportunity to share with you some of my ideas about Gandhiji's thoughts. As he said, I teach, or I used to teach, Gandhian philosophy in our department when it was offered as a stream elective for our MA students. That was long back. Okay, and for me right now, Gandhi is not an academic discipline or an academic topic. Gandhiji's philosophy is not an academic topic anymore. When Professor L.S. Ganesh asked me to talk about Gandhi, what immediately came to my mind as a flash is one sentence which Gandhi has written in his arguably the first book written by Gandhi. I'm sorry, I'll be using Gandhi or Gandhiji. Okay, doesn't matter much. I remember that once it was nearly about 25 years ago when I wrote my first article about Gandhi in a Malayalam magazine. The editor of that magazine, the magazine was published by Indian Express. The editor of that magazine, very senior journalist, Jayachandran Nair, he told me that you are using the word Gandhi. You should not do that. You should use it Gandhiji. Okay, I still remember that. But somehow, because of this academic engagement with him, uh, and particularly in the international forums and all, instead of Gandhiji, we are used to use Gandhi. But I think it doesn't matter much. Okay, so long as we are not calling him Mr. Gandhi, which is a typical Western expression. Yeah. So see, there is one particular sentence which strikes me. Gandhi writes that happiness is a mental condition. So that's the first thing which came to my mind when he wanted me to talk about Gandhi. Because nowadays all of us, I was actually this semester I'm teaching a course, ethics, and one of the prominent ethical theories which we discuss is utilitarianism, which is actually a hedonistic concept, which says that what is right is what brings out most utility to the most number of people, and utility is equated with happiness. So we are all concerned with happiness, and there are different types of happiness. Okay, in India also, the ancient Indian wisdom, most of the uh, intellectual and physical engagements in India, according to the great philosophical tradition of India, whether it is philosophy or art or science like Ayurveda and other things, even Natya, which is art, the primary purpose is happiness. Okay, happiness, of course, not in the sense we understand happiness today. It has multiple dimensions. Vagbhada says in his classical work, uh, he says that the purpose of Ayurveda is dharmartha sukha. Dharma, artha, and sukha. Sukha is happiness. And sukha can be understood in two different ways, because later on we have the four purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So kama was not specified, moksha was not specified when we say dharmartha sukha. So sukha incorporates kama and moksha, moksha being the paramapurushartha. So there is nothing wrong in seeking pleasure, but to what extent? That is the question. Because ultimately, if you seek pleasure, if you dedicate your life for the search of pleasure, bodily embellishment. This is a word Gandhiji uses in his book, Swaraj, which I just mentioned, arguably his first work, which was written in 1908 or 1909. It was published in 1909, and which is again one more special thing about this book is it's arguably the only book Gandhiji has himself translated into English. Usually Gandhiji either writes in English or writes in Gujarati, and someone else would translate, his secretaries would translate. But this is one book which he himself translated, and he wrote it at a very young age. 1909 means, he was very young. And he was not prepared to change even a word from this book, even during his mature period. Because he says that this book, that's the importance of this book. And in this book he says, happiness is a mental condition. See, so I thought, we will just see what is happiness. There is no time for a detailed, elaborate discussion on this. But I strongly feel that happiness can be equated with freedom. Again, I would specify what I mean by freedom. Freedom, it's not just political freedom. It's not just economic freedom. Because basically these are the two freedoms which normally we are all concerned with. Political freedom, of course, obviously, because since we had a colonial past, we struggled a lot to come out of the clutches of the colonial power, the British power. So naturally we were bothered, we were concerned, and even today, we encounter the idea, the concept of, or rather the reality of unfreedom in many aspects of our life. So political freedom is such a very important thing. Like, people strive for freedom in different ways. The farmers in India, for example, the plight of the farmers in India actually worries most of us a lot. Okay. Because this is something which Gandhiji had. Gandhi's original worry was with these farmers, who, according to him, was the backbone of India, of Indian economy. And for Gandhiji, economy was not divided or separated from politics or spiritual development or any other aspects of life. Everything was interconnected. He was trying to present a picture of human progress, which is not confined to one particular dimension of life, something like economic dimension or something else. So happiness is a very comprehensive concept in his view. And I believe the term swaraj can be equated with happiness in a sense. Because the way in which I use the word freedom, what I have in mind is swaraj. And what is swaraj? As the term itself indicates, swa means self. It's where one achieves a state of existence, or state of subsistence, where one is totally independent or not dependent on. There is a difference between total independence and non-dependence. Because non-dependence is possible, total independence is probably not possible for any one of us, because there is a definite interconnection between everything in this world, as this deep ecologists would say, a biotic reality. We are all interconnected with the universe. But there is definitely a spiritual dimension to this, which our ancient wisdom has reflected upon a lot. Even in the Vedas, they talk about the concept of Rita and Rina. These are interconnected. So Rita indicates the concept of cosmic moral order, which rules over the entire universe, which controls the entire universe, which sustains the entire universe. So this concept of sustenance, sustaining the world, is further developed into a concept of dharma. Dharayati iti dharmaha. So the notion of dharma was developed as that which supports life, which is nothing but a more elaborate discussion of Rita, this cosmic moral order. So Gandhiji was also a proponent of this moral order, this cosmic order, which connects all of us together. Okay, so happiness consists in not in the happiness of one individual or a group of individuals, but happiness consists in the happiness of or the independence of everyone, every human being, not just human being, every creature in this world, because every creature has a dharma. Okay, of course, the dharma manifests in different creatures differently. It manifests in man in a different way. That's the nature of man. It manifests in the plants in a different way, in animals in a different way. But in the case of man, it manifests in a different way. And this is the ancient wisdom which Gandhiji reflects upon quite frequently. I was reminded of another great thinker in the Western tradition, Aristotle. Aristotle also had a very similar concept, which is called eudaimonia, and also his concept of virtue. Virtue consists in not exactly. I mean, it's actually eudaimonia is not happiness. The more appropriate word in English for eudaimonia is flourishing. Okay. So when does life flourish? When does the life of a human being flourish? When can you say that a human being is flourishing? When the entire world flourishes. That's why it is in this sense Gandhiji even very boldly says that in his book. The young Gandhi claims that if one person in India attains swaraj, the entire India would attain it. So this is the way you have to understand. I think we have to read this book, reread this book, and understand it in a different way, because many of Gandhian ideas seem to be very uh, quote unquote impractical today. Seem to be okay. My view is that my argument is that that's because you're taking you're expecting something. You're literally you're trying to take Gandhi's words literally. You have to see how this can be applied in our modern life, in our contemporary life, because life changes, but the way man derives happiness never changes. Whether it is the cavemen or whether it is for us, our predecessors, our forefathers, they all were happy when they were free, when they were autonomous. So happiness is a mental condition, means, you know, where you don't depend on anyone else. You don't need an external reason for being happy. You don't need some condition for being happy. That I'll be happy only if you behave like this. Only if my readers, when I write a book, only my readers behave in a certain way. Or as a teacher, when my students behave in a certain way. Only then I am happy. I am not happy with my colleagues because they don't behave in the way I want them or I expect them to behave. The problem is with me, with my expectation. Okay. Because I can have control only over my mind, not over someone else's mind. And to have a control over one's own mind is the most difficult thing in this world. There is a saying which is attributed to Buddha that if the person who has conquered his own mind has conquered the entire universe. And what do you mean by conquering the entire universe? Buddha is one man who conquered this entire universe because he had total control over his mind. So Swaraj is this total control. And it is not just, you can enjoy or you can experience Swaraj by isolating yourself, going to the mountains, to the Himalayas, to a cave, closing yourself from the entire universe, entire world, and dedicating your mind. Of course, these are different dimensions of Swaraj. I don't deny their value because the Tantric tradition in India, the Maharshis in India, they have all explored in different ways. But, you know, happiness in the Gandhian sense consists in living in this world, being active in this world, encountering the challenges of life, the worries, the anxieties, the challenges, the problems, the troubles, everything. Engaging with fellow human beings, with other creatures, nature, and finding happiness in everything. And as Gandhi's famous prayer says, if there is no one following you, walk alone. Thank you.